Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mabani. I hope you all are doing good, my dear friends. Today is 14th January 2020 and the first article that we are going to discuss is on Taiwan. It's called Vote for a Status Quo. It's important for Taiwan, it's important for China, for USA, and indirectly speaking, important for the whole world as well. Why? We are going to go through it. But before that, I would like to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses. They are designed by the best faculties of our nation. They are available for various different exams, as you can see on your screen. They are our paid and premium courses, and to find out more about it, do check out StudyIQ.com. In case if you have any question, queries, doubts regarding it, you can give us a call on the numbers that you can see on your screen. To download the PDF of today's lecture, there are two places. One is my FB page and the second one is Telegram channel. Can I request all students to share this lecture as well as PDF of this lecture with other students? Don't forget to hit the like button if you have learned something from today's video, and also do subscribe to our YouTube channel. So the first one is Vote for Status Quo. It's about Taiwan. On your screen you can see a lady. She is the president of Taiwan in this election as well. She has got record mandate. Her name is Tsai Ing-wen, and she got re-elected in this recent elections that took place in Taiwan. Now she is for, or her party is for, a democracy, right? She is pro-democracy, and this particular election and the result is important because this is the first time any politician has crossed this mandate. 57%. Since the first direct election of 1996, this is a record mandate. Now, where do you find Taiwan? It's an Asian nation, or can we call it a separate nation? China will be very upset with us if we call it a separate nation. On here you can see this is Taiwan here, this is China, and this is a proper map of Taiwan. You can see Taipei is its capital. East China Sea on the northern side, Pacific Ocean, or you can call it Philippine Sea, is also sharing its border with Taiwan. Then you have between China and Taiwan, Taiwan Strait, and on the southern side, or you can say southwest side, you have South China Sea. So these are a few important geographical things, and one more is Tropic of Capricorn. There are a few things that you need to keep in mind. You can also spend some more time after the map of Taiwan if you want, maybe 5 minutes, and observe some other things. If we go back in the history of Taiwan, then we find, if we go back like medieval era, and I'm not talking about medieval era of India, I'm talking about Taiwan. So back in 1800, around that time, Chinese dynasties used to rule Taiwan. Then there was a Japan-China war, and it was won by Japan, so Taiwan was taken over by Japan, so it was under Japanese rule. But if we check the modern history of Taiwan, let's say from 1950, then Taiwan has always been an independent state. It is not having any seat at the United Nations, right? There are only 15 countries that have officially recognized Taiwan as a country, and China is absolutely not happy with those 15 countries. USA is one of the most important friend and protector of Taiwan, but USA as well has not officially recognized it as a different country. There are various reasons. We are going to go through it, so don't worry about it. The passport of this country, Taiwan, when I say this country or this place or this nation, right, take it as just a word, because I'm going to explain things to you, and then we will, at the end of this discussion, we will come to a conclusion whether Taiwan is an independent. Means here our main purpose is not to prove that Taiwan is an independent country, but here the main purpose for us and for you guys particularly, those preparing for competitive exams, UPSC and other exams, for you need to understand the main thing, like what's going on in this part of the world. Who is right, who is wrong, that's not important. You need to understand the core of the thing, core things that are going on over here for a very long period of time. So passport of this particular nation or country is accepted in most part of the world, right? And things started like the fallout, I would say, Chinese Civil War in 1949, and after that, a person that used to rule over China, he was forced, I would say, or he was in a tight corner, so he left the mainland, and then he set up his base here in Taiwan. And Taiwan, on the mainland China, it was Mao Zedong at that point of time. I'm talking about 50s. So I was doing research on this thing before, going through this article, or whilst I was going through this article, before having a chat with you guys or this conversation, I was going through this whole topic, and I came across one interview or one program, and it was about asking people about this election, most recent one. I think it was yesterday or day before yesterday's thing. So basically, a person from China said that Taiwan has always been part of China. A person from Hong Kong said that the recent protests that were going on in Hong Kong has inspired the people of Taiwan, and what they have done is, or they have elected for a democratic government, or re-elected a democratic government with such a strong mandate, is good. And a person from Taiwan said the same thing, that we have always been independent. So you can see here it's very difficult. Now people have believed it for a very long period of time, so it will become very difficult, and this is not a problem that you can solve in few days. Now, Ms. Tsai's Democratic Progressive Party suffered major losses in 2018 local elections, but here in this national election, she took over 57% of the vote against her challenger. Now, Beijing or China mainland has always followed this one country, two nation systems. How it works is that China says the mainland portion, or let's say Xi Jinping will say that we have one country, two systems. Like we are one China, right? There is only one China in this world. But then you have this Taiwan, where systems are a bit different. And this is one China, two country. They say the same thing about Hong Kong as well. So Hong Kong protests have, given a sort of boost. And what China has done in Hong Kong, because Hong Kong was part of British territory, then it was handed over. And at that point of time, Chinese government promised that Hong Kong will stay independent. The culture, the democracy, all these things will be maintained and looked after. But in recent past, what we have observed is that China is trying to select a head who is inclined towards a communist party, and this is something that this Hong Kong people of Hong Kong, they are not happy about. So for them, it is about intruding or encroaching their democracy and destroying the democracy, and that's the reason why they are protesting. So people of Taiwan, they got a sort of a glimpse of what China is doing with Hong Kong, and the same thing they can do with us as well in future. Now, why we are talking about USA here? I told you one point, that USA is a protector of this country called Taiwan. Now, USA has not officially recognized it as a country, but there are so many things that USA has done in the past that has created this image of USA as a protector, as well as one of the best buddy of Taiwan. A law was also passed. A bill was passed basically in the parliament, or I would say the Congress of USA a few years ago, a few decades ago, to make sure that Taiwan is not attacked by any country. So it is not any country means China. Then Chinese President Xi Jinping has recently declared that if required, China will use force as well, or military might, to take over Taiwan. And Mr. Trump has used this Taipei or this Taiwan. Taiwan is a very, you can say, sensitive issue for China. China is not happy with any country or any nation talking about Taiwan as an independent country, and it will really upset Mr. Xi Jinping or China when you talk about Taiwan. So USA has used it for bargaining, as a bargaining chip in this trade war. There was a sort of department from protocol as well when Mr. Trump got elected. and he received a call from Miss Tsai. At that point of time, it was a congratulatory call, but when you receive it, that basically means that you are speaking with a president or your counterpart of a particular country. So that was something that China was not happy about. Now, China has used various different tactics, like fake news was used, social media trolls were going on DPP candidates. In fact, Miss Tsai's degree was also challenged. There was this whole campaign that Miss Tsai is not having, or she is having a fake degree of London School of Economics, but finally the LSE has confirmed that Miss Tsai has studied in London School of Economics. Now, China has meanwhile leveraged its economic clout. What China is doing now is China is investing in African countries, in Latin American countries. Latin America basically means South American countries, and China is trying to win the heart and minds of people as well as leaders of this African and South American countries, so that in future, if there is any sort of voting on Taiwan or things that are against China, then China will have so many countries in its team that can withhold this recognition of Taiwan. Taiwan's zealous defense of its market economy and democratic freedoms may not seem compatible with China's model of state-sponsored capitalism and one-party rule. So this is not a problem that you can solve in 1 or 2 days or 1 or 2 years. It will take ages, right? And step by step, we have to remove all the hurdles, and then hopefully both these parties will come to a logical conclusion. But for that, we need a constructive and democratic international response as well. But as far as Uncle Sam or USA is concerned, it will not leave China this time. It will do everything. It will try every trick in the book to make sure that China suffers. And then why suffering? Because it's not about taking a vengeance or revenge. It's all about personal interest. Personal interest in the sense national interest. Like, if I would be a diplomat, the only thing that is good for me good for my job, or what my job dictates me, is to always keep my national interest a top priority. If something is okay with my country, if something is beneficial for my country, it may upset other countries, but if something is beneficial for my country, then I will do it. Right? So this is how diplomatic world works. This is how all these diplomats are trained. Many times we feel that these two countries are arch rivals or arch enemies, right? But it's nothing like that. It's all about situation. It's all about time. So at present, USA is pressing these buttons of China by using this Taiwan issue. So this one is done. Then we'll talk about unhelpful combativeness. This one is about CAA, that is Citizenship Amendment Act. So various different protests in different parts of our nation, and this article is talking about Prime Minister's statement. Now, Prime Minister said this thing, that this CAA 2019 is only to grant a citizenship to a certain class of people, and it is not about taking away citizenship of people who are already citizens of our country. And he is absolutely right here. No doubt about it. The problem is government is not aware, I would say. Not aware won't be the right word. I would say government is not listening or feeling the real problem. The people who are opposing this CAA, their main concern is not that people who are facing persecution in our neighborhood, if they are allowed to come here, and if they are given citizenship, then that's not the main problem. The people who are protesting, the main problem is that this particular law is discriminatory and inadequate in its manner. So you know it very well that Muslims are not included in this CAA. Now, I'll take government's statement. What Amit Shah, I think it was India Today, he said this thing, that these countries, Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh, right? These three countries are Islamic countries. So if something is, like, let's say, if in an Islamic country, if a Muslim is being harassed, or if something wrong is done with him, then that's a law and order issue. But when you have a minority, like six minorities that are recognized in this CAA, if they are facing something, and if they are facing consistently, like they are being beaten up, they don't get access to justice and all these things, then where they will go? They have to come here, right? This is the place from where they have departed. This is where their forefathers used to live, because means before 47 everything was one, right? It was one India, where today we have three countries. Our country, India, then you have Bangladesh, and then you have Pakistan. Early on, it used to be India and East Pakistan and West Pakistan. Now, it's not just people who are in big cities, metros. Indigenous communities as well in northeastern part of our country, they are not happy about this Citizenship Amendment Act, because what they are saying is that they don't care about if you are allowing Muslims or if you are not allowing them, if you are allowing Hindus or other five communities. They are concerned about their indigenous culture, their linguistic rights. Because what happens is, if let's say refugees from Bangladesh or illegal immigrants from Bangladesh, if they're allowed to become citizen of India, because they are living in various different parts of this northeastern states, so what will happen? They will, in future, they may take over in the sense they are big in numbers, and they will be the ones who will be voting for their people. And in future you will have a chief minister whose roots are from Bangladesh. So I hope you are getting it. So this is why indigenous communities are opposing this CAA. Now, Government of India has assured indigenous communities that all necessary safeguards are included in this law, right? Your culture, your linguistic rights will be looked after. So rest assured, that's what government has said. Now, I would say this thing, that if people are not happy about CAA, and if government is strongly feeling that this is absolutely necessary, then if there is a misinformation, or government, it's the responsibility of government to create a bridge, to create an environment where critics and other people can come on board, they can discuss things with government, and government needs to pacify people who are protesting by information, by right information. If I know that there are a few people, they are not, there is a fake news as well going on. There are some fear as well, like there is a panic. People, particularly Muslims, right? As far as media is concerned, what I know from media, there are a few people out there, they believe, like Muslims, they are being misinformed by someone that their citizenship will be taken. Like government is using CAA and NRC as a combo to take away citizenship from them. But still we have to wait and watch, right? We have to, and means I'm as far as I know, I'm not talking about BJP or Congress here. As far as India is concerned, if you go back in our history as well, we have accepted ideas. We have accepted all those ideas, all those different ways of prayers, all those different ways of worship and everything. Our country is unity in diversity. So just imagining or thinking like people who are already citizen of India, we are going to take it away from them. That's not going to happen. That's something that will, no government has that much, you can say, guts or daring to do that thing with the people, because it's not just about Muslims, it's about being Indians, and I know there are people who have different thinking. They are a bit not happy with Muslims. There are people who will not be happy with Hindus. There are people who are not happy with means they have this thing, that they will oppose everything. They are not happy with this thing and that thing. They have their own small world, and they want that thing to be followed by everyone. But that's not India. India is very, you can say, it's a variety in one place. So rest assured, nothing like that can happen in our country. Like, we will not accept, Indians will not accept, and that's our constitution will also allow that. So that's a thing, without taking side of any political party. This is my own personal view. You may agree, you may disagree with this, and I would like to know, what do you think about it? So do stick your views in the comment section. I would really like to know, like, what aspirants are thinking about this CAA and what they think about India and other things. So one question that we can ask, of course, government is that government has said that this allowing people or Hindus or this other 5 communities, they means they have no other place to go. So this is the only place where we have to accept them. So government has said that this is all because of partition. But the question is Afghanistan, right? We never had any partition with Afghanistan. So means is government saying that when there was one India at that point of time we used to share border with Afghanistan and then it became Pakistan? Means I'm not sure. So this is a question that is there in my mind, like why Afghanistan? The other thing is it could be Afghanistan because of Buddhism. Buddhism was quite means it was quite you can say over there it was quite in like few years ago they did some digging and they found like Buddhist architecture and so many things. So Buddhism was quite prevalent in this Afghanistan. So is that the reason? Still we have to ask this question to government. Now CAA's rationale is that these countries have a state religion and religious minorities face persecution. Okay, then what about Tamils? Right, in Sri Lanka, they have faced this sort of things from dominant Sinhalese for a very long period of time, and this issue has. We need to look at this thing from this 2 angle as well, and government should provide a logical explanation on this thing. And as I told you, right, if there is a misinformation, then government should create an environment of dialogue. Moving on to next item, it's about in the name of self-defense. This is a very interesting article. You know what is going on between Iran and USA for a very long period of time now. So there are 2 questions that we can ask. The first one is, was the attack on Soleimani legally justified? Right, USA has means can we say that this attack was legal? And the second is, can cultural sites be legitimately attacked in any armed US response? Now Mr. Trump has threatened, or he said that if Iran will retaliate or if Iran will attack USA or its people for taking vengeance or revenge of this Soleimani, then USA will attack or USA will destroy cultural sites of Tehran. Now, if we go through Article 2 or Sub-Article 4 of United Nations Charter, then we find that there is a general prohibition on the use of force, that you are not allowed to use force as per United Nations Charter. But there are 2 limited exemptions. The first one is if you are attacked, right? If your country is attacked, then you can use it for self-defense. The second one is you need to get permission from UNSC, that is United Nations Security Council. Now you have these 5 members of UNSC, so I'll take you through it. This flag belongs to France, right? So keep this thing in mind. This is France, USA. This one is Russia, China, and then you have UK. So these 5 countries, they have this veto power, and a very strange nature of these 5 countries, right? You have a team. In one team, you have UK, you have France, you have USA, generally speaking, and they are cousins, you can say. And then you have 2 neighbors who are friends. At present, they are good friends. One is China and Russia. So when it comes to each other, like let's say when it comes to Russia versus USA or China versus USA, then you find countries, they are using this veto power. They have this special power. Like if 4 countries are saying that this is right, and if just one country out of this P5 will say no, this is not right, then that will be not right. For something to be yes or to be no, all 5 have to agree. They should be on the same page. But you hardly find them on the same page. Yes, you find them on the same page when there is a discussion that India should be part of this permanent UNSC chair. At that point of time, you find all these 5 countries in one voice. They will say, no, let the power be with only 5 of us. So this is how they have always behaved. So naturally, if USA, if this P5 countries, if any, United Nations Security Council, if there will be any discussion on this Iran-USA escalation, then USA is going to use veto power and it's going to save itself, right? So this has always been, this is how they are working, these top 5 players. So the use of force by the USA in Baghdad to kill Soleimani without prior consent from Iraq or UN is a violation of this UN Charter. Donald Trump has used anticipatory. This is a word that he has used, that this was an anticipatory self-defense. Anticipatory is deeply controversial as well as contested. It's like, I think you are going to hit me, so I will rather kill you. It's something like that. That I think you have not attacked me, but I think you will. So rather than, staying a bit alert or making sure that my doors and windows are locked and properly, I'm using all these necessary defenses. Rather than that, I will just attack you and destroy you, because it's an anticipatory self-defense. So it's very, you can say, difficult to prove, and it has been abused as well many a times in the past. Now, the history of this right to self-defense comes from this incident. On your screen, you can see a painting, and this is a small, you can see a boat here, if you can observe it, right? It has been destroyed by British troops. Now, there is a history behind it. Basically, there was a time when Canada was under control of Britain, and there were people from USA or America at that point of time. They used to attack, of course, USA at that point of time. So we are talking about 1837. This incident is from 1837, and people from like militias from USA, they used to attack Canada, and so British were a bit concerned about this thing. They were genuinely attacked. It was not like anticipatory self-defense. Canada was attacked by people from America. So, and they used to use this boat, this Caroline. So it was destroyed by British because they had this legitimate reason. And from their discussion, there came this final thing that when you have no choice of means, no moment of deliberation, necessity of self-defense, instant, overwhelming. When you are in this tight corner, then you can use force. But the question is, was USA in a very tight corner? Because USA has used a drone to assassinate Soleimani. The other thing is, USA has not got a clearance from Iraqi territory. So these are the things. And now Mr. Trump is talking about cultural sites or targeting cultural sites. Then this is again a violation of 1954 Hague Convention for the protection of cultural property during armed conflict. We have a UNSC, United Nations Security Council resolution as well, Council Resolution 2347, and this has clearly stated that Islamic State, when ISIS was there at its peak, it used to destroy all this Bel Temple of Syria and other places. So it was USA who said that this is a war crime. Destroying cultural property will constitute a war crime, and today USA is also talking about this thing. So that's quite strange. So this one is explained. We have talked about this three now. This one here and this three, basically, they are about NRC, they are about CAA. Like this one, if you go through it, then you will find it has a particular ideology, and it is against another ideology. So it's a very politically biased article. Now, if you have extra time, you can go through it. As far as your examination is concerned, it's not that important. We are going to talk about this one. It's quite interesting. Protest is at the core of poetry. We are going to talk about the importance of poetry. And I have one more article from Times of India for you guys today, because these three articles were not up to the mark. So I thought I should scan some other newspapers. I have gone through some newspapers, and then I came across one editorial of Times of India, and it's about exports and global value chain and our economy. So we'll go through it. So first, let's talk about this protest is at the core of poetry. Now, IIT Kanpur was in news because of this Hum Dekhenge. It's a popular poem written by Faiz Ahmad Faiz. Now, the poem was recited by a group of students on campus during an agitation. Now, the question is, why poetry? Poetry or cage. Art is all about stepping out of the box, thinking without any limits. That's what the core nature of art is. A thing that is a painting that may be vulgar for a society, but for an artist, and if you look at it from artistic point of view, then there will be nothing wrong with that painting. Same thing applies with songs, with lyrics, with poems, right? Every art gives you an opportunity, or it's a platform that can be utilized as a launch pad where you can jump, or you can break this box or cage, and then you can step out or step into a new territory. For that, we need a fresh pair of eyes and sensibility enough that we can. And if we go through Bhakti tradition poets, Kabir, then that's what they have done. They have all the words they have said. They were against. When I say against, I don't mean to say that they were trying to destroy something. When I say against, I'm saying that very creatively they distinguished themselves. They were totally different. Like Kabir or Bhakti movement, they were different from what was there, or the traditional thing, or a common thing that was there. So it has always been the core nature of art has always been like that, and poetry is part of art, and that's the reason that it is different, and that's one of the reasons why we find people who are protesting, they are using poetry. Now on your screen you have reverse protectionism. This one is about import duties, and it's about our economy. So this editorial is saying that between 2001 to 13, India unilaterally cut tariffs. India was not waiting for any other country. It was reducing import duties. And if we go through this era, 2001 to 2013, then successive governments, right, they took many important steps as far as imports are concerned, global value chain is concerned, and our economic growth was reasonably good in this period. Now, at present, what we are finding is the government is creating a sort of wall of, like, to promote Make in India, to revive domestic manufacturing. What we are doing is we are creating these barriers. We are using tariffs. We are using import duties to curb toys, electronic goods, TV sets, etc. We are living in a world which has, at present, a state-of-the-art transportation. We have good communication technology and everything. So we are living in a very connected world. We are directly, indirectly dependent on each other. So it is important for us, whatever we have, like computers, then you have these motorcycles and vehicles and so many things, right? Mobile phones. So there was a time when only few countries used to have all these technologies, but now every country is having this thing. Is because of this transportation, globalization. And globalization has, it has its own benefits, like what we have today, manufacturing plants in our country. We are producing things for, you'd be aware about this thing, that in India, there are so many Toyota cars that we produce, like they are not for India, they are for Japan. So a Japanese company is producing cars in our country for its domestic purpose or domestic use. So this itself indicates that we are part of this global supply chain. And we need to promote this global supply chain. What happens is when we stop importing things, right? First of all, we are creating this wall. The second thing is it's not good for competition. We'll be not aware about what's going on. If our manufacturers, if they don't face tough competition from people or from companies who are better than them, then they will never get that push factor, to expand and to think creatively. Second thing is, when you are not allowing or when you are increasing prices of these important raw materials, not everything that we are importing is a finished product. If we are creating this sort of barriers, then we are directly, indirectly destroying our exports as well, because India is a manufacturing hub. So things that we import, right, they are raw material for an industry, and then they have to export the final product. That final product will be expensive because of this high import duty. And one more thing on which I personally believe I'm not happy about is that government is obsessed with reducing imports, but our focus should be on increasing exports. Rather than paying too much attention on reducing imports, we should pay more attention on the things through which we can increase our exports. Then one more point, that denying, when we are reducing our imports, we are denying raw material to our those companies who are creating products for international market. It will also be not good for low skilled workers, because what we are trying to achieve in our country is all those laborers who are working are not making that much money. So if we can migrate them, or if we can transfer them from agricultural or primary sector work to secondary sector work, then that will create good money for them, at least a sort of future for them. But when we stop, or when we create this protectionism, then that affects our this low skilled workers. Then it is also not good for our services. Now the reason why, because every manufacturing, right, you cannot have a pure product. Every product has some sort of services in it, and every service you will find a bit of product as well. So even if you are purchasing as mobile services, then you have to buy a small product, or you need to get that card, isn't it? That is a product, and services that you get on your phone, like calling and other things that are part of services. So it's always a mix, right? The percentage or the ratio can be 90% service and 10% product, or 50-50, or other way around, like 10% service and 90% product. But our Indian economy's strength is in services. So when we stop this imports, then we are also not allowing our services to cater to these things that are coming inside our country. And the upcoming budget is a very good opportunity for the government to reverse this protectionist policy. How can we increase our Supreme Court not to review Sabarimala case, to examine larger issues? Dear friends, these are the things on which Supreme Court is going to go through. Now, Hindi students, all those students who follow Hindi lecture of this series, they have said that I need to discuss more news, but I would say that news is something that you have to read by yourself. I can highlight important news, editorials, articles, I can understand that on that you need a bit of explanation. But news items, you don't need explanation, right? You have to do a little bit of hard work for yourself. So these are the news items. Go and download the PDF, and then you can, once you download the PDF, you can go through these news items and highlight them, and then you can go through on the website or your physical paper and go through these news items. These are the important news items, and that's everything in today's discussion. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Jai Hind.